in the bottom of your screen, the meeting, you can see where you can type a message to all of us. What you can do is ask your questions here as we go along through the discussion. So at this time, we're going to get started. And again, I wanted to just reiterate, if you have questions for us, please don't hesitate to ask them at any time. I will go through them as best as possible. We have quite a few attendees. So I will address as many questions as I can, and let's get into it. So Biren, I think we'll get us started.
Hi everyone, my name is Biren Shukla. Thanks Patrick for introducing me to the group. We have a lot of attendees today and we're excited to answer all of your questions and educate you on this first part of the educational series. And we're really excited to have Jody on the call because Jody is a great person to hear. She's always passionate about what she does, and she has great insights, and I look forward to asking her questions as we go along during the presentation. We don't expect this presentation to last longer than 45 minutes. Of course, we want to get all the questions answered. And we do have a couple of polls that we'll be doing throughout the presentation to get an understanding of our audience so that we can better tailor the presentation. So with that, let me get started with the first slide. So we get asked this question all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. We feel that all presentations should start with this, especially because cloud is an overly used marketing term, and everybody has a different understanding of what cloud is. So we thought that by putting some pictures, we might be able to explain it a little bit simpler. So cloud is basically what Fortune 500 companies have been doing for several years. You see the building on the right. It's a data center. It's where corporates have been storing their data on the picture on the left, these types of racks with fancy equipment and tons of hard drives and storage space and enormous amounts of resources in a climate-controlled environment and highly secured and heavily fortified environment. With the concept of virtualization and hypervisors, things have become fairly inexpensive, and so now this concept that now small businesses can also store their data in the same type of environment. Of course, cloud includes infrastructure, right? You need infrastructure, you need storage, you need software, and you need managed services. To go with it. Managed services basically, managing your servers 24/7 and things of that nature. At the bottom, you see all the different devices. So all these devices you can use to consume cloud services. Basically, the data, everything is stored in one place, in one data center. Of course, it's backed up and replicated to other data centers. But the point is that the ability to use any device of your choice 24/7, and that's what cloud is all about. Hope that answers your question. So after each slide, we're going to have questions, and feel free to ask those questions, and the moderator will present those to me or Jody as we see appropriate. All right, let's move on to the next slide.
At this time, I would like actually to take a quick poll. I'm going to go ahead and put that on screen for you all. Feel free to answer this as honestly as you can. The question is actually, where are you in the decision-making process of thinking about turnkey cloud for your firm? I'm going to leave the poll on screen for about 20 seconds. Feel free to answer. Thank you for your responses so far. I'm going to leave it on for another 10 seconds. All right. I'm going to leave it on. I'm still getting some answers in, so I'm just going to leave it for another 5. Okay. Thank you so much for your responses. Let's go ahead and move on.
Thank you, Patrick. So it does, from the responses, it does look like there are a lot of people who want to know about cloud and want to learn more about cloud and have a lot of questions. And hence we put this webinar series together. We'll be hosting these webinars on a monthly basis simply to educate people so that they can make better cloud decisions for their firms. So let's talk about security in the cloud. Now that we know that the data is stored in a secure data center and there's climate controlled and there's all these redundancies, this diagram kind of shows a picture of a data center showing you what's inside the building. There's biometric scanning, there's motion detectors, and there's security cameras. I had the opportunity to visit several data centers over the years, and the fanciest one I saw was where armed guard was following me, and that was the Las Vegas data center. It was a unbelievable experience to have somebody follow you literally, and it was heavily guarded and fortified and things of that nature. So most of us will not get an opportunity to go inside a data center, but this at least gives you an idea that your data is not just stored in the cloud somewhere. This is in a building. You know exactly where your data is stored and what controls are there in place. So there's a lot to cover in this slide. There's lots of points here that you need to consider, and this is the number one concern that people have when they go to the cloud. They're concerned about security, and rightly so, right? I mean, you have client confidentiality agreements, and you need to make sure the data is not going to be, it's not just sitting in Amazon cloud where it's a true public cloud where you don't have any controls. You have no idea where your data is. So it's very important when you start working with a cloud provider, when you start looking, you ask the right questions to them. Where is my data stored? What type of controls do you have? What type of tiers are these data centers? There's 4 tiers, so tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our clients are in the highest tier data center, which only means that it's got the highest uptime guarantees. It's got all the redundancies in place. It's not gone down. The data center itself has not gone down. So there's a variety of things that come into the picture. Now, once you know that, okay, my data is in a tier 4 data center, and what type of controls do they have? And sometimes this gets very technical, right? You have to, many times firm administrators or managing partners of firms, they don't really know what questions to ask. They depend on their IT provider or their trusted advisor to guide them, on making a right decision. So here, the next thing is to consider is two-factor authentication. Now, you might have seen this in banking websites where you log in and then you get a text message back and you have to enter the PIN code in a few seconds to log in. That's called two-factor authentication. Some cloud providers do offer this as an option, and it's great. That only means that they have additional levels of security to protect who can and control who can access this data, right? Then the third is confidentiality of data. You definitely want to ask your provider who owns data. Is my server going to be shared with other clients or not? There's a variety of architectures, when it comes to cloud computing, and one cloud provider is not the same as another cloud provider, right? They might have a different architecture on the back end. Data transmission. So from your PC or from your laptop, from your iPad to the cloud, that data is transmitted. Is it secure? Is it being encrypted? This is extremely important to know. So there's 2 types of encryptions. There's encryption that happens in transit when the data is going from, from the accessing the transmission, and data encryption at rest when the data is stored on the servers, on the hard drives. Is that encrypted as well? So that's important to ask your provider. Audit logging, this is new and upcoming technology. A lot of people are talking about it. If, let's say, a breach does happen, then we want to know who accessed it, what time did they access it, what did they look at, things of that nature. It gives us an additional level of control and gives our clients a peace of mind that, hey, you know, we do this, we have a log, we can provide it to you. We are monitoring this log to make sure there's nothing bad happening, things of that nature. Account timeout is also pretty important, being able to lock sessions after a certain period of inactivity and things of that nature. You can lock it based on IP addresses. So you might say, well, I only want my staff to come in between the hours of 8 and 5 and just have access during the time. So let's go ahead and get a perspective from Jody and get her take on tell us a little bit about our firm so we have an understanding of our firm, and just give us some background why they decided to go to the cloud.
Thanks, Biren. Hello, everyone. My name is Jody Kirsch-Brown, and I'm with Gabler. We're a primarily employment defense firm here in Camarillo, California. And we've been working with Forum Infotech and LevelCloud for about the past 3 years. I actually met Biren at a ProLaw conference, and so we work in the cloud using ProLaw as our primary front office, back office, et cetera, for our legal management in things. We actually went with the cloud mostly because we were a startup firm. We actually left a much larger firm. We have a total of 11 attorneys here and 6 staff. And we actually left the larger firm and came over and decided that to sort of mitigate the cost of having on-site IT folks, that we wanted to see if the cloud would work for us. Now, I will tell you, when we first started our firm, pushing 4 years now, we went through a little bit of a nightmare with one cloud provider. It just wasn't giving us the service. There was a lot of lost connectivity, things like that. Then I met with Biren at the ProLaw conference, and he told me of all the benefits of LevelCloud. We transitioned over seamlessly from one provider to another and have not had issues, problems, and any sort of fixes and tweaks that we've needed to make along the way have been accommodated very well by LevelCloud. And that's really actually been much, much less expensive than having full-blown IT staff. We haven't had security concerns or anything like that, data breaches, anything like that. We have not had concerns with any of that. Everything is very secure, and it does feel like you're working just directly on a server-based office where your server is physically here. One question, actually, that I'm going to put back to Biren is where the servers are physically located, because that kind of made us a little bit nervous on our end. Are they here? Are they in a bunker somewhere? And so I kind of want to put that back to Biren, because as far as the security is concerned, I think that that's something that's really important that you should probably address for these folks here.
Absolutely, Jody, and thanks for that introduction. It really helps for firms to understand, you know, the size of firms and things of that nature. So yes, the data centers are located in Austin and Kansas City. We replicate the data. We offer 99.99% uptime guarantee, which means that which translates that if you're running your firm 24/7, 365 days a year, which is what usually servers run 24/7, then in an entire year you can expect to have about less than 5 hours of downtime in an entire year. And what I'm talking about is unscheduled downtimes. There's always downtime for maintenance, which is always announced to our clients ahead of time, and to do patching and a variety of other data center maintenance activities that goes on. But unscheduled, meaning there is an outage, something happened and the internet went out or something like that. Now, it's important to understand that in a data center, unlike on-premise environment where you have a single internet provider or a single server protecting, or you might have one or two, some redundancy, but there's limitations to what you can purchase and manage on site. Versus in a data center, you automatically get the redundancies that you would typically have to spend minimum of $50,000 to $100,000 to get even close to what a data center already has without the upfront investment. So in a data center, you have multiple internet connections. You have multiple battery backups. So you might have experienced situations where the battery goes out and then, because of a power outage and you can't function anymore. So those things almost never happen, and hence we can offer those type of guarantees. Thanks, Jody, for that intro. But Jody, I wanted to ask you a question. A lot of people always are in the situation where you were lucky enough, you were a startup firm and you could make that move, right? But most of the firms already have made those investments in servers and equipment and are now starting to consider cloud. So they're established, they have all this software that is running on the servers. What would you tell these firms? What should they do? Should they consider cloud, or should they continue to upgrade their equipment and purchase all the equipment, do the same thing that they've been doing for many years now?
It's really, you're kind of in the middle there, because the expense of upgrades and keeping up with technology can just be, as we all know, incredibly expensive. And LevelCloud does all of that for you. And believe me, I'm not being paid for this or any of that. We pay them for their service, and I'm doing this because I really believe in their product. But as far as that's concerned, the biggest benefit is going to be the cost year after year and upgrade after upgrade. So if you're going to do it sooner than later. I know that people are afraid to take the leap of faith because, well, the cloud is unstable and, this and that. And I really do think that LevelCloud has worked really hard at being at the forefront of that technology. And I think that if you're going to make the move, especially if you're about to upgrade your existing equipment, you need to think long and hard before you go spending all of that money to upgrade equipment that might not even be relevant 6 months to a year down the line. And you're going to pay that price yet again and yet again when LevelCloud keeps it all updated for you. So really for us, that was the biggest thing, was the cost benefit, as well as the online or telephonic support where they kind of handhold and guide you through and things like that. So you really do have support for your users. They don't just say, okay, you've got your servers here and now you're good to go. Good luck with that. They actually have the telephonic support, the online support, and everyone is very helpful as far as your users are concerned. Takes a little bit of getting used to in the very beginning, but their support that they provide is fantastic, and all of our users are now really comfortable and used to working in it. So.
And thanks, Jody, and I'm glad you put that note out there that you're not getting paid to do this, because I almost did not want to make it sound like a sales pitch, and I wanted to make sure that this is truly an educational. But I appreciate that you feel that way, and I thank you for that note.
Well, thank you both for that input. I think that's quite insightful. Thank you, Jody, for your input. Thank you, Biren, for your answers. One thing, as a security professional myself, I can attest to many of the concerns, and I understand how important security is, especially in the legal industry. So what I want to do is I'm gonna launch another poll. This question is, are your security concerns holding you back from full cloud implementation? Is there something you're concerned about, security within the cloud, that may be holding you back? And let us know if there are answers regarding security in the cloud that we can answer. Again, this poll will be open for, I'm going to leave it open for 30 seconds unless I keep getting answers. Looks like we have a few votes trickling in. I'm going to leave it open in another 10 seconds. Please let us know. Your answers are vital to us. This helps us tailor our answers to your needs. We can address your specific concerns and provide you with the best answer. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Looks like about half of you are having some major concerns regarding security in the cloud. So we're going to move on. If you have any questions regarding security specifically, let us know throughout the presentation. But for right now, we're going to be moving on. So the next topic is application performance. You may be wondering, well, my concern isn't just how secure is the cloud, but how are applications running in the cloud? Do they perform as well as they would on my expensive desktop that I invested in? So Biren, if you have anything to add on this, please take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to bring up a point about security. One of the questions we get asked, and Patrick, you need to share the presentation. Thank you for that. Is who owns the data when it's in the data center? So that is one of the frequently asked questions which we have on the website as well, an answer to that. The client always owns the data. All we are providing here is we're shifting, instead of the client purchasing equipment and the data stored on their equipment, all we are doing is we are providing the entire infrastructure and shifting the location of the data. The data is still there running on servers in a data center. They can download the data anytime. It's all spelled out in the agreement. If you decide to go with another cloud provider, it's just like we moved Jody's firm from one cloud provider to ours. If you were to move to some other provider, the data is provided to you on an external hard drive, or depending on the situation, we might work with the cloud provider to do some migration directly from our servers to their servers. So it's all very transparent. It's all spelled out, and it's important to know that. So let's get into application performance. We get asked this all the time, and how will my applications perform? So as you learned, Jody's firm is using ProLaw, and we have many clients that are using a variety of different products like ProLaw or Time Matters or Time Slips and Juris. There's a variety of legal practice management systems out there, as well as document management systems that integrate with some of the practice management systems. So how do you make all this work in the cloud, and how will it all work? How will I transition? How will it perform? That's the biggest question and concern people have. And part of it comes from the fear that I have only so much bandwidth, and if I go to the cloud, do I have enough bandwidth? That's the number one concern we hear as well. So my answer is that the bandwidth is, of course, important, and you do need to do the analysis of how much bandwidth you have, how many concurrent users are going to be connecting to the server in the cloud, and then we need to do the calculations. For example, our solution typically takes anywhere from 60K to 100K, so off the pipe. So typically businesses have at least a T1 line, and T1 line is 1.5 megs or 1500 kbps. And so you have to factor all that in. Then you also have to factor voice over IP. Some companies have phone systems that have voice over IP, and that takes a chunk of your bandwidth too, about 100K. So you have to factor all that in, make sure you have proper bandwidth. That affects performance. Application performance is not a big issue with most, at least with our solution, because think about it. You are actually running your applications on the server. Once the connection is made to the server, you're simply running and opening these programs on the server itself. Now think about this. The equipment that you're running these applications on is extremely extremely powerful. They have a lot of resources allocated compared to what a typical server on site might be able to do for you. So keep that in mind. Second, there's no data going back and forth. So let's say, for example, you're opening ProLaw, right, and you're doing all this time entry and profiling documents and things of that nature. That data is not going back and forth. It's like watching a movie, Netflix. The movie never gets downloaded on your device. You're simply streaming it. And cloud works exactly that way. Our solution works exactly that way. It's just streamed to you. And there's no data packets going back and forth, which is the reason why the applications perform a lot better. The only thing that is going from the device to the cloud are keystrokes and mouse movements. So let me take a moment here and actually ask Jody how the applications perform in the cloud for her.
Thanks, Biren. All of our applications work very, very well in the cloud, which we were actually kind of surprised because our desktop looks just like a standard desktop would look. They do have a web top that we use, and Biren can discuss that with you if you're interested later. But as far as the applications themselves, we use ProLaw and the Microsoft Office suite, and everything that we use is just the same as though you were using it in a standard server-based in your office. And everything works literally the same. I can't say it in any other way. The clicks, you don't wait and pause, and there's really not any lag time or anything like that. We do use voice over IP for our phone service, and we recently switched over our internet provider, and we now have a 50 Mbps system, and everything seems to be working flawlessly. The only thing you really need is internet, and then you're logging into the system, and all of a sudden your system's up. So if you've got that internet available, you can use it anywhere you want, and it literally works in Starbucks just like it would work if I was sitting in my office, which is great.
Thanks, Jody. But your firm is really unique because you have hybrid operating systems. You have a lot of Mac and PC users. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, and that's a great point. We were really nervous with our Mac users. We are 2/3 Mac and 1/3 regular PC users, and both of them work very well in the cloud. I prefer launching through a different, I don't like using Safari through my Mac. I feel like Google Chrome just gives you a better connection, and I think that everything works more seamlessly. As far as on PCs, same deal. I actually launched through Internet Explorer on that, and it works just fine. I actually use both computers. I use one at home and one at work, and it's exactly the same because all I'm doing is going through the Internet and launching my desktop essentially through the Internet. And so it works the same on both systems equally as well.
Okay, great. Now, talk to us about file sharing, and when you get a USB stick or if you a CD-ROM and you need to take some files that are on, your local PC and move it to the cloud, and vice versa, if you have ever a need for that.
We do. We get, in the times, times are changing, and there's a lot of e-discovery, and people give us things on disks regularly, and uploading those locally and then bringing them into the cloud is a really simple transfer. It's a two-step process essentially. There's a couple of extra clicks there, but once you move it into the cloud, you then no longer need the CD or the flash drive or anything like that, and you can take your computer and access those files anywhere. Our office is also paperless. Literally, we don't have file cabinets or anything anywhere in our office. Everything that we get gets scanned into the system and saved, and we have about 250,000 documents saved now, and we've never run out of space. We've never received notifications that our server is about to explode or anything like that. We scan everything into the system, and this is great because then the attorneys can go down the road to the local coffee shop and be working in their legal files just as though they were in the office. So that's really helpful, obviously.
That's good. Thanks for that. Can you tell me a little bit about the adoption of cloud? Many firms that we talk to have younger attorneys and somewhat more older attorneys who have been there for a long time, who are used to doing things certain way. How was that ever an issue when you guys decided to go to the cloud?
Not for us. I mean, there was a slight learning curve in the beginning. We have everyone from first-year attorneys to 35-year attorneys in our office, and even our more mature users were able to easily adapt, and they actually really like having the service of being able to call in and ask questions as they go. So, it's a bit of a learning curve kind of wrapping your head around the difference between my local drives and my cloud system. But once you get past that little hurdle, it's really, simple to understand. And we run the gamut on, age and experience and who does what, and people set in their ways and always doing things a certain way. And the system is very easily adaptable to all users of all experience levels. And, we've really enjoyed that as part of it. But definitely our more mature users actually really like that they can access their documents from anywhere, because many of them work remotely at this stage. So that's really helpful.
Thanks, Jody. Now, you use ProLaw as a document management system, so you have no servers in your office whatsoever. You come in to your office, you log in to your computer, and you fire up your cloud, and you scan documents to the cloud. Everything's in the cloud for you.
Everything. We don't have a single server in our office.
I was, I mean, I was amazed when we first met you, and to go in your, the filing cabinet area. There's no file cabinets. You're not a typical firm. You're really leaps and bounds ahead, and in that regards, because a lot of it because you were a startup and you could use these technologies. Some of these firms are used to with certain workflows and processes, and it's kind of a little bit harder because they have to convince a lot of people, and there's a long decision-making process. But I'm always impressed when I come in your office, and there's no servers, nothing, no filing cabinets. It's pretty cool.
It's been great not having paper, I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Some people still print things and they have their little creature comforts, but we do not have files. And, there are some people that have their own little file folders that they kind of hide from everyone else. But, everything is scanned and saved in our system. But even those with creature comforts of having it, the solution to that is having dual monitors. You can look at paperwork on one and be working on the other, and it's a different topic for a different day, but that's how we've kind of gotten around to being more the paperless route.
Okay. Thanks, Jody. Well, let's move on to another topic and talk about the next one. I think is going to be, let's see.
In the meantime, actually, I wanted to, just on a side note, I'd like to ask another poll that I'll share with all of you. We would like to know what applications are currently being hosted for you if you've already moved to the cloud. Or give us an idea of what you would want out of these available options. Which applications would you need? I'm seeing a lot of email. Feel free to let us know if you have any specific questions. We can answer them regarding any of the specific applications that you like. I'm going to leave it up for another 10 seconds. Okay. Thank you so much for your answers. I'm going to go ahead and share these with all of you. This will give you an idea of where your peers are as far as what applications you'd like to see hosted. So we can circle back to this later if you have any specific questions, but at the time we are going to go ahead and move on.
Great. Yeah, that just gives us a great idea that email, of course, many firms have already migrated their email to the cloud or considering moving to the cloud because it's fairly simple and email hosting has been around for a long time. And then most other things remain on site, but that we've been seeing a trend in all other things going to the cloud, making it a true cloud experience for the end user rather than having pieces hosted in the cloud. You know, you have everything hosted in a standardized environment for users. So thank you for participating in the polls.
Yeah, again, thank you, Biren, for your input, and thank you so much, Jody. Let's go ahead and move on.
Yeah, so I come across this, I wanted to put this slide up because I have been studying a lot of cloud opinions from various states all throughout the country, and almost every state now almost has an opinion on cloud. And what they're saying is that, great, the benefits are there, we all know about it, and I wanted to put it up there. But what they're saying is that you need to do the due diligence. It's still, you have to ask the right questions to your cloud provider. You need to make sure that they have proper security in place, maybe speak to their references, and more importantly, that they understand your industry and your business, your workflows, your applications. Having knowledge of your industry is paramount because what happens is that there's lots of cloud providers, right? And you can do a search for it and hundreds will pop up. But how many actually know your applications and know that this integrates with that, and you need to have certain processing power to host this application, or this application like ProLaw it will not work in a certain environment. There's a lot of years of experience that goes in having the vertical industry knowledge. So keep that in mind. But this is what I wanted to show you, a list of things. You can eliminate your servers, work from anywhere. Data backup, there's huge costs with that. A lot of firms have appliances that they've bought to do just backup, and then the data is shipped offsite to a data center. So that's how they do backup and disaster recovery. And the pay-as-you-grow is the #1 reason. You've seen subscription-based pricing. You pay for 20 users, you hire one more attorney, you pay 20 for 21 users, and if you downsize, then you pay for less users. So that's one of the benefits. Other is storage. Storage is also something that you pay for as you grow. So you never have to estimate. On an on-site environment, the discussion is like, okay, how much do you expect your firm to grow in the next 2-3 years? So let me buy, 2 terabytes of additional storage space, right, to anticipate that growth. Now, you don't have to do that in the cloud. You don't have to buy more. You pay for what you consume. And of course, you can use any devices, Android tablets, Mac, PCs, even phones, if you're in a crunch. So any questions, feel free to, there's a questions box, so please, we'll take questions as they come along. Otherwise, we have some other questions that we can ask Jody as well. So let's move on to the next slide, and then we might have a couple more questions. Okay, moving to the cloud. So again, you've educated yourself on what cloud is. You know that there's lots of security controls in the cloud, more so than what you might have on site today. So keep that in mind when you're considering cloud. Do you have two-factor authentication? Do you have audit logging? Do you have encryption? All these things typically are extremely expensive to implement for a single law firm, but by going to the cloud, all the law firms get to take advantage of the investments that have gone into securing the cloud. To that point, I wanted to ask Jody a question that came back to me about cybersecurity policy. ABA recently, in their annual conference, just came out with their, they say about cybersecurity. they say that you need to, it's a hot topic, and I know that Jody's firm has got cyber liability insurance, and I wanted to ask her a question. Why did she get it? What was her thought process behind it, and things of that nature?
This is a really quick and dirty answer, but I work for lawyers. They're paranoid. They wanted to get something that would make them feel more at ease, so they purchased the cyber liability policy that they actually researched and found, and I was not really that involved in that process. I just pay the bill now. And the cost is really minimal, frankly, and it does, they do ask you very specific questions about your cloud provider, things like that. They when you're getting the policy, so they do actually do a little bit of research. It's not just, yeah, here's a policy that we're just trying to sell you so you can have. As far as the details of the policy, you would have to discuss that with your broker directly, but you know, quite frankly, I work for lawyers. They get a little bit paranoid. They're very concerned with client confidentiality and security, of course, and that's actually why we went ahead and got that policy. And so far, so good. We haven't had to use it, knock on wood.
Now, that's great, Jody. Now, a lot of times when you go to the cloud, you are shifting the risk to the provider. So today, if you have it on premise, you know, you are liable for everything. By moving everything to the cloud provider now has to make sure that they are investing and they are making sure that they're monitoring and doing all that good stuff. So from that standpoint, you know, Jody, was that like, I mean, I know you have the policy now, but you didn't have it when you first went to the cloud. So was that like shifting of risk something that you liked, not having to be in the IT business?
Just an extra little cushion. Yeah, just an extra little cushion to have. And actually, I remember specifically meeting with you before we signed on and asking all about the security and things like that. And you actually presented us with, you know, your security plan. You actually had an agreement in place, you know, in writing, explaining all of these security precautions that you take, which was great. It obviously gave us enough confidence to end up signing on, and then several months later was when we actually also got the supplemental policy on our own as well.
Okay, got it. Well, thanks so much. Now, on this slide, I really wanted to focus on the assessment part. I think I was referring to this earlier of the bandwidth assessments and making sure applications are checked out and things. There's a lot of work that goes into figuring out if the law firm is ready to go to the cloud or not. And we'll be the first ones to tell you, because if a proper assessment is not done up front, what ends up happening is then you go to the cloud and then you find out, well, this product integrates with this product. Now, all firms are not that complex, and you know, and things of that nature. It's pretty straightforward. But still, it's important to do an assessment and make sure your cloud provider is doing that. You know, it would be a red flag if they're not asking you these questions. They're not assessing your network. If they're not asking you questions about your workflow. Because it's important to know how dictation is happening today in the environment, how it would happen if everything was moved to the cloud. You know, does something need to be tweaked here? Do we need to look for a cloud-based dictation technology? You know, those things, those discussions need to happen up front. Otherwise, you would have a really bad experience going to the cloud. Also, getting your employees on board is extremely important. Once all that is done, then there's some build and deploy. So we have to build your private cloud environment. We have to install your applications. So we have to work with your third-party providers sometimes. There's a lot of migration that happens, migration of data. But the good thing is all this is happening on the side. So when Jody's firm decided to move to us, she was already working in the cloud with a provider, and we took all her apps, all her data, we migrated everything to our cloud, so she had a parallel environment that she was able to test her pro law and make sure everything was working correctly. And then there was a cutover. So there was one weekend or Friday or something like that, mutually agreed upon time, and we decided that, okay, we're not going to be using this system. We're going to cut off using the system, and we need that time, that window, to do a seamless one final dump of all the data. And then, of course, training is very important. So since you're going from an on-premise to the cloud environment, it's extremely important that the staff is trained on how to use things, how to, copy documents from here or there, and then ultimately you can go live and you have happy people, happy users, things of that nature. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today in this webinar, unless there are more questions. Patrick, do you have any questions that you wanted to ask me or ask Jody?
Nothing in particularly. The one thing that I wanted to cover, I wanted to take back on behalf of our audience, on the poll that I gave for security, are your security concerns holding you back from migrating to the cloud? Since we're talking about moving to the cloud, about 50% of you said yes. I hope we've addressed the security issues, but I just wanted to circle back and reassure you. Moving to the cloud can be and is a very secure process. I mean, there are so many things in place. There are so many controls in place. Biren was talking about being followed at the data center. Those facilities are very much locked down. Your data is safe at rest. In transit, again, there are high levels of encryption. Your data is completely safe. And as Jody was mentioning earlier, there are insurance policies for security, so you are not at fault. And I know being in, liability being a major concern, there are, in case something were to happen, there are insurance policies in place to protect your firm. So again, I just wanted to reiterate and thank Jody for her input, as well as Biren for his input, for kind of easing. I hope that your tensions and your worries have been eased through this process.
Well, thanks, Patrick. And I wanted to thank everyone for being on the webinar. We had a really good participation here all over the country. And we are going to be doing these types of educational webinars. We'll take a deep dive. We have it on our website already, the next one coming up next month. Please feel free to register for those. Let your organizations, groups know. We love cloud computing. We love cloud computing for law firms especially, and we want to make sure that we are here to answer all your questions. Feel free to send me an email. I even have a checklist of questions that you can ask your cloud provider. I think that all firms need to have a great experience going to the cloud, and that no one should go through, what Jody's firm went through when they went to the cloud. And Jody, any closing thoughts? I thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person, and you gave some great insights. It's always nice for a law firm to hear from another administrator. So if you have any final closing thoughts.
Yeah, we're very, very happy that we've moved over to the cloud. We feel secure, confident. Our users are really good at using the system now, and we don't have those security concerns. In the beginning, it's tough to take that initial leap just because, of your creature comforts that you're used to. But that said, if anyone has questions that they want to ask of me directly without Biren on the line, you're welcome to call or shoot me an email, and you can get my information from Biren directly, and I'm happy to discuss things with you privately, law firm to law firm. So if you do have questions, you're welcome to reach out to me directly as well.
Thanks, Jody. Again, thanks everyone for your time today. The website is levelcloud.net. We are a brand. It's a brand of Forum Infotech, and we appreciate your time. Thank you again, and look forward to seeing you in future webinars. Thanks, Jody.
Thank you.
Bye.